It's time for fantasy trades. Buy lows, sell highs. Who's trending up, who's trending down. We're going to look at it all. But most importantly, the biggest buy low of all time is Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and my lank apparel is coming. Let the naysayers know. I'm also a lead fan, or not a lead, I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com. And you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. Are you a double banger? Are you a member of the DB squad? Do you listen on audio and then watch the video as well? Well, that's an exclusive club, but it's easy to join. Just go do it. Hit the subscribe when you're here on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, leave your comments, and on audio, you subscribe and follow and leave reviews and all that sort of stuff. It is a great way of helping me out as we head towards 80K. Buy low, sell highs. Do I need to give the disclaimer? I bet I should. What does this mean? The 5 buy lows and the 5 sell highs are not the only buy lows in existence. They're not the only sell highs in existence. A buy low does not mean you need to go and acquire that player. A sell high does not mean that you need to get rid of that player. If your team is full of buy lows, it's actually a good thing. It means that you are set for an uptick in production. If your team is full of sell highs, watch, you are probably going to drop off at some point. We have a pretty strong success rate of these things actually turning around in the next couple of weeks. So just be cautious of that. A buy low does not mean get that player at his market rate or his projected rate. It means get a discount or don't do it. A sell high means trade away at the highest level or just roll with it. These are very, very key points. Buy low does not equal must acquire. Sell high does not mean get rid of 100%. Have that in mind. Trades are hard to pull off. A lot of times trades are just L's. You just pull off L trades all the time. Your number one instinct on a trade should be, no, not doing it, not touching it. No, not worth it. Maybe 10% of trades you go, maybe. I'm still sitting at 0 trades done this season. Had one and then I was close on it and I pulled out, giggity. That's all you need to do. Do not trade for this. I know you love trading. Make them good ones. Make them good ones. Okay, that will bring us to give it a bit of a recap from 2 weeks ago and how we went on the buy low, sell high show 2 weeks ago. What do you think? We have 10 of them. How many do we hit? 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 4 out of 10. Drop your guess in the comments or in the chat, and then I'll bring it up. Let's do buy lows. We started out with Jason Tatum as a buy low. He was 51st. He's jumped up to 20th, so that is a W right there. Cam Johnson was 166th. He moved up to 114th. I still think there's room for him to improve from there. Jakob Poeltl was 131st. He's moved up to 102nd. And if he keeps playing 35 minutes a night, he's going to jump into the top 60 very, very easily. I don't think that he will, because I just don't know that that's how they're going to run their rotation. And I described my annoyance at it yesterday, as much as I like Jakob Poeltl. But this could really fly up the board. The one that I got wrong on the buy lows was Mikal Bridges, who I had at 109th. I thought that's reasonable to expect that he's going to get better. No, worse. 142nd, Mikal Bridges. That I could easily, don't know what that word means. I could easily put him back onto the buy low show today. I won't. And say that 140 is obviously insane and he will get better than this. He will not be a top 10 player, a top 20 player, I don't think. Maybe not a top 30 player. That would be my expectation. That was one of those fake breakouts that I did get right last season when I was like, no, he's just not going to do this. And we were at pains at talking about Mikal Bridges being a gigantic, absolutely massive, ball-bursting dynasty sell high. But he's not this bad, obviously. He's going to be much better than this. And then one of the other buy lows was the delicate dancer, Alperen Şengün. We're right in that middle of that weird stretch where he was getting like he got benched for defense. But oh no, is this going to happen? Well, no. He went from 83rd, and the last 2 weeks since we did the show, he's 12th. He has reestablished himself very firmly as the best player on the Rockets. He has all-star candidacy. Hey, would you guys be interested in me doing... I've done it in the past, but it doesn't always get a great amount of views. Would you be interested in me doing I pick my all-star team situation, or even like a midway point of the season? We're not quite there. Midway point of the season award show? Let me know. And we'll go through and do that if we get enough responses. Drop those in the comments. Helps the algo out as well. And lets me know what sort of stuff we can chuck in as extras. Let's do the sell high portion of the show. Trae Young was 5th. I said if you can get a top 5, 6 guy back, we do it. He's 8th since then. So is it a win technically? Yes. Is it a huge one? Not really. Like that's about like he's been awesome. There is going to be a portion where Trae Young falls to the 30s or 40s, and if you're able to get a top 10-ish consistent guy back, well done. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. The double Royal Julius Randle was 16th. He is now 74th. 74th is way more realistic for Randle. This one I thought was relatively easy. So was Tyus Jones, who was 25th, and he is now 67th. I actually think 67th is a little high as well. I'm worried about him being traded, and I'm worried about a few other things falling away. If I could trade him straight up for someone around that 60 zone as well, I would do it 100%. Clint Capella, the dental pain legend, the Kerner, he was 39th. He's down to 72nd. Since then, again, a relatively easy one, and this one the easiest of all time. I didn't expect it to be like this, but the Horsecock Keldon Johnson was 60th, and I said I just don't really buy some of this stuff with Keldon, and then he's turned back into Keldon Johnson. He is 184th since then. He's not quite a drop, but I'm going to be honest with you, in category leagues, he's not far off. He has always been, outside of the first 25 or 30 games of this season, a shitful category league player. He's now moved to the bench, which I think is his best role long term, and it's gotten bad. So don't drop him, but there you go. So that is it's a pretty strong performance, I would say there. 9 out of 10. I guess 8 out of 10 if you don't want to count Trae Young, even though he technically went from 5th to 8th. So that is somewhat of a W, but yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty good result. Let's go and do our first buy low of the day. And we are going to talk about Phoenix's Devin Booker, because it has not been a particularly strong run from Booker over the last little bit of time, but maybe not as bad as you think. Or maybe it is. 80th in -1 rankings in the last 2 weeks, 73rd on Yahoo, 40th in fantasy points, averaging 22, 4, and 7. And again, this is where some of the confusion might lie. You go, 22, 4, and 7, how on earth is that 80th? Fair enough. Good question. He's hitting only 1.7 threes. He's at 1 steal and 0.3 blocks. He's shooting 43 from the field, 32 from 3, and 78 from the line. So there's your number one thing. This is a man who's gotten by in the past as a 90% free throw shooter. He's at 88.3 for the season, and then he goes from well above league average to being a huge positive with big volume to being under on still big volume, which hurts you significantly. So the free throw has just really killed you. That is the most simple explanation for what has happened with Devin Booker, is that the free throw percentage is just down. So again, he went from a guy that was, for the season, he's at 1.68 Z score on free throws. Last 2 weeks, negative 0.39. It's a huge swing. The field goal is also down from 47 to 43. Takes you from a sort of negative to a, hey, we're approaching punt territory here. And all those things have just combined to really drop things down. And of course, all the percentages are points issues too. So if you get those percentages back up, instead of 22 points, you're 26 points. 27 usage the last 2 weeks. And I know that there's going to be, well, of course, Beal is back. So his usage was set to drop. And I looked into this and I said, okay, is that true? Is his usage down to 27 and that's what we expect now that Beal is back? And he hasn't played many minutes with Durant and Beal. Granted, they've barely played together. It's been about 70, 80 minutes for the season. But in those minutes with Durant and Beal, he's at 32% usage. So the 27 usage over the last 2 weeks, I can't rule it out, but I can't just directly ascribe it to the fact that Beal and Durant are there. Well, he's now a 27 usage guy because those guys are there. That's just, so far in those limited minutes, has not been the case. It's just been a weird downturn. Now, he's at 30% for the season. He might dip under 30 for the year. But realistically, what's happened here? The shots just aren't going in. He's a little bit down on shot attempts, and more importantly, free throw attempts, down from 7.5 to 5.9. And I'm not really sure that's got anything to do with Durant and Beal, because as I said, his usage is actually higher on the court with them than it has been at other times for the whole season. So, yeah, if you're looking to acquire Devin Booker, I think we look at a top 30 player to get him back. I think he is much better than what he's doing here. Can he possibly be a first-round guy? Yeah, look, I thought he could be. I wouldn't have taken him. I obviously didn't take him in the first round. I had him in that middle second-round spot. I would say that he's probably a top 20-ish guy rest of season. So if I can get a top 30 player for him, I'd be very, very happy to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there is still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. So you don't have to worry about your team winning. You don't have to worry about money line only. You don't have to worry about any of that. Just get in, $5 on, bang, bonus bets come. That's it. They just give it to you. Easy. And then, you know what FanDuel reckons you can do with all those bonus bets? Well, they've got a little thing. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's called parlays, because they've got a parlay hub where you can go and make a parlay. It's the best way also to find popular parlays in the parlay hub. They've also got live same game parlays. Why do I find parlay to be such a funny word? Well, we don't even call them parlays over here. So when I see the word parlay, all I think of is Jack Sparrow, and I think of this FanDuel ad read, because you want to go and put a parlay on. So go to do that. You can also find bets in the new Explore tab as well over on FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a parlay. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, and don't forget to parlay responsibly. So let us go on to the next buy low player. We're going to go to another star-level, all-star type guard, and that is Tangles himself in Philadelphia, Tyrese Maxey. Maxey got out of the blocks red hot this season and started dominating when, here we go. We're in here, boys. We've got a first-round guy that we got in the 50s. He was carrying my industry pickup team. Well, not carrying. I was on top for a period of that. Part of that was him, but he was dominating. And it has cooled off significantly. He's now 30th for the season. I think that's relatively reasonable, but it's been a big cool down in the last 2 weeks. 79th did -1 rankings. Yahoo's got him 101st over that time frame. Always remember, Yahoo, when you're on your app, defaults to total value. Straight 9-cat total value. And as you'll see, through so many of these numbers, it gives you a ridiculously inflated view or deflated view of the player's overall value. I will bang on and on and on about this, and if you want to argue, well, Josh, actually all 9 categories count the same and they should be important, then you have to tell me again with a straight face that DeLon Wright was 50 spots better than Giannis Antetokounmpo last season. You have to do it. That is the rules. I'm sorry, I don't make them. I just actually do make them. Maxey is 41st in fantasy points over the last 2 weeks, averaging 40. He's averaging 27.5 points, 3 rebounds, 5.5 assists. You go, how is that 79th or 101st according to Yahoo? Because that's crazy. He's averaging 27 points a game. He's hitting almost 3 threes. Well, defensive stats, 0.3 steals and 0.5 blocks is really low. He's hitting only 32% of his threes, 45 from the field and 79 from the line. So much like Devin Booker, there are some very, very clear indicators here. 32.1% from 3. Tyrese Maxey came in as a rookie and couldn't shoot threes at all. And then he became a 43% shooter in year 2. He was a 43% shooter in year 3. And then I went, okay, so maybe he is this elite shooter. Well, don't know about that, because he is down to 38 this season, which is really, really good. But on high usage, it was always going to be hard to maintain 43%. But he's on a real slump at the moment, 32% over the last period of time. And of course, if I'm going to tell you that field goal percentage and free throw percentage are a multiplier category, in that they impact points, 3-pointers are a triple multiplier. They impact field goal percentage. Look, 3-point percentage is not a category that's counted in fantasy, but it impacts 3 different categories. Field goal percentage, 3-pointers made, and points. So if you have a big variation, this is the ultimate cheat code to see buy low, sell highs. Is it real? Is it not? Is a player's 3-point percentage right at the ass huge or terrible down below? Because it impacts everything. It's a third of the categories that's impacted by a single stat that's not actually a category. It's outsized. Anyway, so he's shooting only 32%. So his 3-pointers are down a little bit. It impacts his overall field goal percentage, impacts scoring. It is going to come back up. I feel really confident. To 43? No. But 37, 38, sure. And then the assists are at 5.5. Is that terrible? It's not terrible, but he's at 6.5 for the season. And the very, very easy argument to make is that Joel Embiid has missed the last week. And over the last week, he is at 4.3 assists only. In the last 4 games, 7, 4, 2, and 5, his assist numbers. There are the games that Embiid has missed, 7, 4, 2, and 5. The 4 before that, 10, 5, 8, and 7. basically for Joel Embiid, half of Embiid's made baskets this season that have been assisted have come off Maxi assists. Half of the ones that Embiid gets assisted on are Maxi assists. So it is very easy with Embiid back today that we are going to see that 5.5 probably push back to 6.5 to 7. He's not James Harden, but those numbers have dropped significantly because Embiid is out, and I think that is a very easy correlation. Again, I do not want to view Tyrese Maxey as a first-round player. Some of the early steal and block numbers that he was getting were just unrealistic. And he's at 0.3 steals. He's ridiculous, but he's only at 0.8 for the season. He was 0.8 last year, 0.7 the year before. 0.8 is fine. Like, that's just what he is. Maybe he was averaging 1 block a game as well. He's down to 0.5 now. Again, a pretty reasonable number, even though he averaged only 0.1 last season. But it's just assists, shooting numbers, even free throws are 10 percentage points down. There are so many very clear indicators. I don't think he's a first-round player, so I'm not giving up a top 20 player to get him back. If you can get him for a top 45 guy, I would do it. Otherwise, you don't have to get him. You don't have to get him. There is going to be a market... it'll be fine. There's going to be a big market correction here, but you do not have to go and acquire Tyrese Maxey. Let's go to another guy who is generating some negative buzz at the moment, and that's Jiren Jackson. So it's obvious that Jiren has been in a slump. 87th in -1 rankings over the last 2 weeks, 61st on Yahoo, 80th in fantasy points, averaging 31 fantasy points. And the easy thing to say is, well, Ja Morant is back, so that's obviously going to be reducing Jaren's value. And this is always the key issue in buying low and selling high. When there is a narrative out there and something unrelated to the narrative happens, but then turns the overall numbers to make it look like the narrative caused it. I hope that makes sense. Because the thought would be, Ja's going to come back, Jiren is going to drop off. Ja is back. Jiren is 87th since then. Yeah, we'll see. Ja calls Jiren to drop off. All right, that's a very basic, simplified view that requires a little bit of digging to find that out, right? You go, look, what Ja's back. Let's see where Jiren's at. Oh, my God, 87th. Well, I guess Morant did cause that impact. All right, that is a surface-level investigation. And we're not about that. We love to go deep. We dig in. And that's what we're doing here. He's averaging 19.7 points with 5 rebounds and 1.3 assists. 1.4 dribbles, a steal, and there's the big one, 0.9 blocks. So the question should be to you, how, in the ever-loving God, does Ja Morant mean that Jiren Jackson's blocks are going to go down? And the answer is, he doesn't. It is coincidental. And coincidences in buying low and selling high are one of your biggest friends. He's at 0.9 blocks the last 2 weeks. 0.9. This man averaged 2.7 a game over the last 2 years. He was at 3 last season. He was at 2.3 the year before that. Even though it hasn't been good this season, and I think that's a Steven Adams impact, he's at 1.6, which is almost just double what he's at the moment. And that's got nothing to do with Morant. Because again, you could easily make the argument with the drop in usage, he should be able to get more, to pay more attention defensively. But it's just gone the other way. And to get a surface valued look would be Morant back, ranking dropped. Oh, well, I guess this is where we are. But there's no way that Morant is causing him to halve his blocks or to push him down. So far down. There's just no way that is true. I'd also watch the usage because it is very obvious to see, well, he had a 27 usage this season. And in the last 7 games, he's at 23.7. And you go, okay, all right, that is the Morant factor. Done and dusted. I'm not so certain about it, though. Because last season, he ran at 24.9. And guess who he played with a lot of the season? Ja Morant. The season before, 25.4. And guess who he played with the majority of that season? Ja Morant. So, is 23.7 is not huge, but an extra 2 percentage points of usage can actually jump back on top of that, giving him a little bit more in terms of scoring. And then the blocks roll back as well. And he's also playing more minutes this season. And that could also jump back even further up. He's only at 31. He could be 32, 33. So the surface level says Ja back, ranking drops. Easy. Ja back, usage drops. Easy. But he can do 25 with Ja. He's done it before. Multiple times. So it is going to pop back up. Now, some people idiotically took him at the end of the first round. That corrected pretty quickly. Some people were taking him middle second round, which was incorrect, I thought, as well. People were grabbing him end of second round, which I was actually okay with. Didn't love it, but we've talked about the fallacy of high blocks and all that sort of stuff. That's a million times. But now his value is nowhere near that. But I would only consider acquiring Jiren if I was trading like a top 75 player for him. That's all I need to do. If someone is really panicked, that's how you hit in. You do not have to acquire Jiren Jackson, but you do have to see if you can get a bargain on him. And that's what I think that you can do. at the moment. I hope you can do that at the moment. Today's episode is brought to you by the GameTime app. It shouldn't have to be an issue buying tickets to your favorite events. Why would it be? It should be fun. A stress-free process, and that's what GameTime is here to do. The fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theatre events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, zone deals. It's all there over at GameTime, which takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. With their flash deals, what they do is they flash a bonus or an offer up on your screen. Go, hey, something's cracking in your area right now tonight. We've got discounts on it. Do you want to go? Sometimes they even offer the discounts right up until the start of the event, or sometimes even into the event. Hey, okay, let's go. You want to go? Let's go. Flashes it up. Sports, music, comedy, theatre, whatever it is you're into, GameTime can get that for you. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That is a new code, by the way. New code, LOCKEDON. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. As usual, we're running very, very slow on this show. So let's look at another big man who, honestly, some absolutely mind-popping stats here from Karl-Anthony Towns. He's 112th over the last 2 weeks, 187th according to Yahoo's numbers, 111th in points leagues, averaging 28 fantasy points. And a lot of these ones I bring up, it's not that I'm just like that, or no one's actually talking about this, is that they are. I am lurking in so many spots. Obviously, I'm in Twitter. I'm looking at all stuff with fantasy basketball on Reddit. I look on Instagram. I look on TikTok. We have the Basketball Monster forums. People tweet at me all the time. I see this stuff everywhere, right? All the time. So I don't just make this up. So when people go, man, Karl-Anthony Towns is killing me. What am I doing with this guy? He's been terrible. And I go, okay, I didn't really see that. So let's go and have a look. And you go, oh, no, he is terrible. This is a real bad run. 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. 18 points out of Towns, you automatically go, that's not ideal. Like, we think he can be and should be better than that. But that's not even the big part of it. He's hitting 1.5 threes. This is a guy, obviously, that can be a 2 threes player. He's hit 2 threes a game each of the last 3 seasons. He is also at an unfathomable 0.2 steals and 0 blocks over his last 6 games. 0 blocks. We'll talk about that now. He has not blocked a shot since the 16th of December. He had 2 blocks on the 16th of December. And before that, the 6th of December. This is an insane run. Now, there were a lot of people with Towns in the offseason were like, well, I think he couldn't go back to being a first-round guy. The reason he was down last season was injury. And I did say, that's bullshit. He was actually down because of Gobert being there. Reduced rebound opportunities, reduced block opportunities, reduced usage towards Edwards, reduced field goal percentage from taking more threes. And that is why he was down, not injury. But I'm sorry, there is no way this man is going to average 0 blocks. I don't think he's going to be this high blocks guy. I don't expect that, and you shouldn't either. But he's at 0.6 for the season. He's at 0.3 over the last month. 4 blocks in a month of basketball. What? 6 steals. The lack of defensive stats is crippling. 2 years ago, he was at 1 steal and 1.1 blocks. The other thing is that, yes, he hurt his knee. He missed a game, but he's down under 30 minutes the last 2 weeks. Is he under... Sorry, let me rephrase that. He is at 31.4 minutes the last 2 weeks, but there's 3 games in there where he played under 30 minutes. And that was as he came back from the knee injury. So while he only missed the 1 game, people might actually forget that he missed that 1 game, and they look at the total of 31 minutes and go, well, okay, that's fine. But 3 of those games were under 30. So that's going to push up. His overall field goal percentage is down as well because he's hitting only 36% from 3. There are just so many indicators here for Towns. I think that he can be a top 30 guy. I believe I had him 24th, 25th heading into the season. That's exactly where I've got him now. That's exactly where he's ranked for the season. But I'm not giving up that value. Top 50. Trade him a top 50 player. Which, given what he's doing at the moment, is way above price. But I think he's going to block a shot at some point. The shooting is going to come up and the minutes are going to come up. And I feel pretty confident about that happening. The last buy low guy is a guy that's been on the Sell High show. About 3 weeks ago, he was on the Sell High show, and his name is Alec White. Jacoby White. Kobe White. I don't know why I explain that so many times, because if you're on video, you can see his bloody head right here. 149th over the last 2 weeks. Another one where people go, man, like, is he cooked? Levine's coming back. What do we do? He's back to the old Kobe White. And I was like, I think he'll be okay. It is a bit of a slump. I didn't realize it was actually this bad. 149th over the last 2 weeks. 258th according to Yahoo's bullshit rankings, and 95th in fantasy points, averaging 30 per game. He's at 18.5 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 4.3 assists, hitting only 1.3 triples. He hasn't had a single steal, and he's at 0.2 blocks. He's shooting 41 from the field, 21 from three, and 79 from the line. So let's just break this down. He's a 39% three-point shooter this season. He's at 21 over the last 2 weeks. This has got nothing to do with the return of Zach LaVine. He's not going to be a 21% three-point shooter. Even if he's only a 37% three-point shooter, he's not a 21% three-point shooter. And we already detailed it. It's a triple banger. You're a double banger, and you love being a double banger, but three-point percentage has got you beat. It's a triple banger. So that's going to jump up, and that bumps his field goals up, bumps his three-pointers made up. He's at 1.3. He's at 2.9 for the season in threes. Bumps his scoring up. Goes back to a 20-point-per-game scorer. He also, much like Karl-Anthony Towns, hasn't registered a single steal in the last 2 weeks. His last steal was also like Towns on December the 16th. That's Towns and blocks. I don't expect him to be a big steals guy. You shouldn't. But this is how we look at how wild it is with the steals. In the last 7 games, Kobe White has 0 steals. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. The 5 games prior to that, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And we talk about steals and averages and the variance of them and how it can be just crazy like that. Like, that is a crazy run. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, then what happens now? Another run of 7 games in a row with 1 steal? It's all over the place. And it sways your typical rankings so much so that Yahoo would tell you, well, he's actually not even a 20-team rosterable player over the last 2 weeks, which is clearly bullshit. So the three-point percentage is going to jump. It might jump 20 percentage points. The steals, they're not going to be big, but they'll go from 0 to 0.6 or 0.7. And yeah, there is going to be somewhat of an impact with Zach LaVine returning. That's true. He won't maintain usage. But it is going to be a situation where that percentage just has to go way up. It's just not holding like that. It just isn't going to stick at that level. I feel pretty good about saying that. That's your buy lows. Let's talk sell highs, which are nearly always a lot harder to pull off. Imagine having a discussion with someone. Hey, mate, this player is dominating. He's dominating. Give me a good price for him because I actually don't. My team might be actually too good. So I'm just going to do you a favor. He's just too good. It doesn't work. Like, that is so hard to do. It is very hard to pull off a great sell high because the guy is cooking and you're saying, well, yeah, he's cooking, but actually, I don't want good players. Do you want them? And most people are going to go, you're all right? What are you talking about? And that's why it is tough to do. But we're going to also just talk about guys who are playing well over their head, and it is important to put perception and narrative into it. Because at the moment, Darren Fox is flying. And find a Kings fan in your league for a number one situation, because they are very defensive of Fox. Fair enough, he's their best player, right? But they also sometimes have an overinflated opinion of their best players. Like, there are people who have told me he's a top 10 player in the NBA. All right, like, settle down. He's not, but there are people who believe that. And at the moment, his run in fantasy enables you to target that. 14th in -1 ranks over the last 2 weeks. 19th on Yahoo. 50 fantasy points puts him 13th. He's averaging almost 30 points with 5.2 rebounds and 5.3 assists. He's hitting 4.8 triples with 2.3 steals and 0.7 blocks, shooting 50 from the field, 45 from the field, or from 3, and 69 from the line. Remember that. That 69 is not the outlier. He is a bad free throw shooter and he hurts you there. The shooting is insane. Now, I will give a lot of credit to Darren Fox. I also talked about this ad nauseum, that he was a prime rim finisher, giggity, more than Shaq last season. I said, there is no hope that this continues, and that was bang on. He's dropped like 12 percentage points at the rim, which is very obvious to see. What I didn't see is that he would go from a 32% three-point shooter to being one of the best shooters in the league. And that is legit what's happened. He's also upped his volume to a crazy amount. He's taking pull-up threes left, right, and center. He is shooting so many threes, and they're going in at an exorbitant rate, 45%. He shot 32 last season. He shot 29 the year before that. He shot 32 the year before that, and I'm not suggesting that he's going to go back to being a 32% shooter. I think a part of this improvement is real, although there is a very clear link between free throws and threes, and he's shit at one of them and unbelievable at the other. So does the free throws come up, or do the threes come down? That is a risk. That, of course, if we're going to talk about having low three-point percentage, dropping your ranking significantly, having a high one bumps you way up. He's hitting almost 5 threes a game. So therefore, he's averaging 30 points per game. Will that hold? I really don't think so. And this is also a guy that's at 2.3 steals. He was at 1.1 last season, 1.2 the year before that, and now he's just getting them left, right, and center. His last few games, his last 7 games, he's had multiple steals. In 6 of them, he went 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 4, 0. The 5 prior to that, 2, 0, 0, 1, 1. It is going to drop, and when your steals are up, way up, and your three-point percentage is way up at the same time, you get a huge elevation. And when they both drop, he'll go back and be the 80th ranked player over the next 2 weeks. If I can get a top 20 player for Darren Fox in a category league, I would do it. In a points league, I think he is a top 20 player. If I'm in a points league, I'm looking for a top 10, top 12 sort of guy. These things are a little bit hidden. You get swept up in the narrative of how good he is and how big the performances are, but there's just no way he maintains 2 points, 3 steals, or 45% from 3. I just don't see how that happens. But you know me, I hate the Kings. Just add it to the list of teams that I hate. Let's go to the Indiana Pacers now and talk about Miles Turner, which, again, was a little bit under my radar. Over the last 2 weeks, Miles Turner is 21st in -1 rankings, but according to the old mates at Yahoo, 8th. Now, of course, that's laughable, right? But that's how it presents. If you go and look up his numbers, it'll come up as 8th. He's 63rd in points leagues, averaging 35 points. He's averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 0.7 assists, 1.7 triples, 0.3 steals, and 2.4 blocks. And all of that, you go, what's actually so special here? Why is he 8th on Yahoo? What is pushing this up? Well, here we go. Ready? 62 from the field, 48 from 3, 95 from the line for a true shooting of 77%. He's at 64 true shooting for the season. True shooting takes into account 2-pointers, 3-pointers, and free throws. So while you don't measure true shooting in most fantasy leagues, the fact that he is 14 percentage points above means there is going to be a large fall away. He's also a very good free throw shooter for a big man. We know this. But he's not this good because literally nobody is. He's at 82 for the season, but how many times has he hit 80% from the line in the last 3 years? 0 is the answer. 0. He was at 78, 75, 78 the last 3 seasons. He's running at 82 this season. And over the last 7 games, he's gone, all right, I'm not going to miss anymore. Over the last 7 games, Miles Turner has taken 40 free throws, and he has hit, I'm going to think, 38. 38 out of 40 over the last 7 games. It is going to fall away. The 3-pointers at 48 are going to fall away. The 2-point shooting numbers are at 69%. He's at 61 for the season. He's going to fall away. All those percentages fall away. The scoring falls away. The 3-pointers made fall away. The 2.4 blocks, they can hold, no problem. If I can get a top 30 player back for Miles Turner, this is the time to do it because this shit has no chance of holding. Speaking of guys with outsized defensive numbers, what is going on with the New Orleans version of Robert Covington? And that is Brandon Ingram. He's 25th in -1 over the last 2 weeks, 14th on Yahoo, averaging 47 fantasy points, which is 21st. Again, the numbers, 24.3 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 6.2 assists. You look at that and go, totally reasonable. Why can't he do that? And I say, yeah, I agree with you, actually. He probably could be very, very close to that. He's at 1.5 threes. The man never takes threes. He should take more of them. But he's at 1.5 steals and 1.7 blocks. So there's your giant red flag. Let's talk percentages first, though. 52 from the field, 47 from 3, and 85 from the line. He has been a better 3-point shooter. Granted, he's at only 36 this season. He was at 37 last year, but 33 and 33. Oh, sorry, that's Miles Turner. My bad. He's at 35 this season, actually, from 3. He was 39 last season, and he was 33 the year before that, and 38 the year before that. But he is rolling over the last month at 44%, the last 3 games at 54%, and 47 over his last 6 games. This is going to come back down. He still doesn't take huge amounts of them, but they are going in at a crazy rate. But let's talk defensive numbers here. 1.7 blocks in his last 6 games. This man averaged 0.4 last season. He's averaging 0.5 this season. Even steals, 1.5 over the last 6 games. He's at 0.8 for the year. He was including this season, Brandon Ingram steal numbers. 0.7, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, which is this season. The last week, 1.5. His block numbers, 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, 0.5. The last 2 weeks, 1.7. I've never seen anything more prime for a regression than this. There's just no hope. It is just not going to hold. I guarantee you this. If I can get a top 40 player for Brandon Ingram, I 100% immediately do it. And the good thing is over the last month, he's actually rolling at around top 30 anyway. So there is an easy way to pull this off. There is just no hope of increased steals and blocks at that level and increased threes staying at that level while also staying healthy. It's just not going to happen. Aim higher. Aim top 30. Some people really love BI. Man, he's a real all-star. Is he? Okay, yeah. I mean, he's all right. He's pretty good. But he's not this good. So, do what you can. I have talked about this one 1 million times approximately. We go to Portland, and it is Malcolm Brogden. The number one thing which is not reflected in stats is I do not expect A, him to be a starter long-term, or B, for him to actually finish this season on Portland. And he probably moves to another team and is a 26-minute a night sixth man on a good team, right? Which just has no bearing on a top 100 player. He's 73rd over the last 2 weeks, 31st on Yahoo, again, insane. 71st in fantasy points, averaging 33. He's at 17.6 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 6.3 assists, hitting over 3 threes with 0.9 steals and 0.1 blocks. He's hitting 51% of his threes. He's at 50% from the field and 85% from the line. Now, he is a good three-point shooter when he plays off the ball. That is true. He's at 42% for the season. He was at 44 last season for Boston. He shot 31 for Indiana the year before that and 39 the year before that. But nobody is a 51% guy. None. Nobody. Not a single player. This is going to fall off. He's also averaging 32 minutes a night because for some reason they have been prioritizing him over Scoot Henderson. Now, Simons is still out. Sharp has returned. But he's not holding at 32 minutes. He is the most obvious, if I had him, give me any top 100 player. I don't care. I don't think he's going to be rosterable in 3-4 weeks. That might even be sooner than that. But he's rolling at a high level. People love him. Hey, he's actually the better player than Sharp and Henderson. And while that is true, I actually don't care. Because the Blazers don't care either long term. And the closer you get to the trade deadline, or as soon as you see his minutes drop to 25, you've got no ability to trade him. None. It's all done. It's cooked. So now the minutes are up. The production is sky high. You've got to hit now, even if you lose out in the short term. I think you have to get something. Or actually, that's not true. You don't have to. You can just hold him and be like, all right, we'll write it out and we drop later on. It's a waiver wire pickup. I got him for free. I understand that mentality too. But if you can get someone, get someone. That's what I would do. Lastly, we go to Indiana again. It is Miles Turner's teammate, Aaron Nesmith. And I've just seen this guy's name mentioned a lot recently. He's 85th in the last 2 weeks. -1 rankings. 39th on Yahoo. Again, lol. He's 138th only in fantasy points. So in fantasy points, he's not really even a 12-team rosterable guy, I don't think. He's averaging 12.4 points a game, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.1 assists, which are honestly very mediocre. He is starting at the moment, but I don't know if that continues when Bruce Brown returns. He's hitting 3.3 triples with 1.7 steals and 1 block, the hidden low-volume-ish numbers. And what else is hidden? Well, 52% from 3. And you can go back and say, well, actually, in college at Vanderbilt, he shot 50% from 3. He did in 11 games. And there's just no way you want to rely upon a player doing that. It's just not realistic. He's just not going to be a 50% shooter. 42, no problem. He could do that. 41, all right. He's at 47 this season. But even that, I think, is crazy. He shot 37 last season. He shot 27 the year before that. Expecting 47% is just way too high. And that is really just driving nearly all of his value. His fantasy value this year is coming from threes with some outsized defensive stats. You want to talk outsized defensive stats? 1 block per game over the last 2 weeks. He averaged 0.5 last season. This season, he's up to 0.8. He is blocking more shots. He's not contesting a ton of shots. His contest rate is actually relatively low, 57th percentile. It's not that high. But he's generating some pretty good block numbers. He's also at an area where he's getting 1.7 steals. This man averaged 0.8 last season. He's at 1.1 for the season. So 2.7 combined steals and blocks over the last 7 games. Pair that in with 3.3 triples at 52%, and it is a very clear sell high. Now, he might even be sitting on waiver wires, which, again, you can add him. But when I look at these numbers, I don't look at it and go, well, yeah, he's very easily going to be able to continue. This is, it's obvious. He will just keep doing this. Because I think it's pretty clear that he won't. And I don't love a guy getting 12, 3, and 1. Even though it is with some good peripherals. But I'm highly skeptical about the 3 low volumes there. The threes, the steals, and the blocks. I'm also skeptical on his free throws. He's at 89% over the last 2 weeks. He could profile as a good free throw shooter. Yeah, that's true. And he was 84 last season, 81 the year before that. But he's actually at 69 this season. So, I do expect that to come up. But does it hold at 89? Probably not. I think it probably falls off a little bit from there. If I can get a top 90 player from him, from the people who really believe, who are absolutely welded on to the Yahoo rankings where he sits at 39th, you can do something there. But there is a lot there that screams regression, and it does not take much to regress from what he's doing. His block numbers are also sporadic. Let's start from his previous game and move backwards. 2 blocks, 0 blocks. 2 blocks, 0 blocks, 0 blocks. 3 blocks, 0 blocks, 3 blocks. 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. So when you look at the averages, which again is more important for Roto than it is for head-to-head, it all looks really strong, but it's hit or miss when they come. You might have a week where he plays 3 games and goes 0, 0, 2, and you get 2 blocks a week. What's the point of that? You might have the week where he goes 3, 0, 3 and has 6 blocks in 3 games, and it looks awesome. That's why it's very hard to rely upon that sort of production regularly in fantasy basketball. And that, all you legends, is the end of today's show. Do you have any other buy lows, sell highs? Drop them in the comments. Do you disagree with these buy lows or sell highs that I chucked out here? Again, also leave that in the comments and be a double banger. Hit the subscribe button here, hit the notification bell, hit the thumbs up, and leave your comments down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.